Well, hello Divi Nation, and welcome to another Divi use case live stream where each week we show you how to add new design and functionality to your Divi websites. And in this live stream today, we're going to be showing you how you can create a flowchart layout in Divi. And don't forget to check out the video description for more info, including a link to the blog post that goes along with this tutorial. And let's not waste any time. Let's jump in and get started. All right. Welcome, everyone. Hopefully I am coming in loud and clear for you guys. Let me know in the chat where you're from. Say hello and give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. Looks like we're having some trouble on the Facebook side of things. So all right, let's see. One moment. Okay. All right, looks like we're live. For some reason, my live stream on my Facebook is not coming through. Sorry, you guys. Let me just start it back up real quick. Maybe that'll do it. Okay, well, hopefully that works itself out. Welcome, as you're coming in, welcome everyone. Today we're going to be showing you how you can create a flowchart layout design in Divi. Here's the final result we're looking to achieve here. So nice and clean, simple flowchart. Flowcharts can take on a whole lot of different kinds of designs, as you know, but here we're just getting creative with Divi, showing you how to use these border lines and blurbs in creative ways to create this unique and clean looking layout for flowcharts if you ever have the need to show complex ideas or anything like that on your website, processes, things like that. Really does come in handy to kind of lead your visitors through a process on your website in a nice design. So this is what we're going for, and hopefully we'll learn some things along the way. Okay. Let's jump in the chat here. Sorry for the delay, everyone. Thanks for your patience. MB asks, any new on the Divi Web Core Vitals update? All I can tell you is that we are working really hard to get those up and running ASAP for you. Thanks for letting me know that the sound is coming in good for you as well. No hard dates for you, unfortunately, on that, but hopefully we can get that soon. Hello, Jan from Berlin. Welcome. And Chris Sinclair. Welcome. And Marcy. Hello. She says she's really excited to see this. I am excited to show it to you. Hopefully it'll be helpful. All right. Spirit and Life TV. All right. Dr. Hugh Alexander, Jackman, that is a long name. Awesome. Thanks for letting me know it looks good. All right, we're ready to go. Let's jump in, guys. Looks like Facebook's still not working right, but hopefully this video, along with all of our live streams, will be available on our YouTube channel for later viewing if you want to go back and check it out. All right, so let's jump in and let's build a flowchart layout in Divi. So we're going to start with a brand new page, new a new page, creating with the Divi builder on the front end from scratch. The very familiar prompt here to insert a row is there. We're going to jump in and add our row. So let's do that. So I'm going to add a 1-column row. And in that row, I'm going to add a blurb. But before I do that, I'm going to exit out because I don't want to add it yet. I want to do a few customizations really quickly to my section and my row. First off, my section, because I am going to be duplicating it, I just want to take out that there's some bottom padding that I don't want. So I'm just going to set it to 0 for my section. And for my row, let's jump into my row settings. Over in the design tab, under sizing, let's give it a custom gutter width of 1 that takes out any default spacing or margins or padding underneath our modules or stuff like that, or margins underneath modules. And then let's take out the default padding. Let's set it to top and bottom to 0. So no padding on our rows. We want everything to kind of fit flush once we start stacking these rows together. And this is kind of the basic setup for all the rows we're going to be using. So 1 gutter width and no top or bottom padding. Let's save that out. Nice and skinny row there. All right, let's add a blurb module. So this will be our first of many, many blurbs we're going to be adding. Blurb module is very powerful module in Divi. We use it a lot, and it's going to be helpful. Since it's popular, I thought it would be a good idea to use this as kind of the main flowchart element. But you can use any module for this within the flowchart, just to give you a reminder of what we're building here. So these are these little boxes with the icon and text. These are all blurbs. So throughout the flowchart layout. But you can use other modules. It would work as well. You just have to size them, consistently with what we're going to show you how to do in this tutorial. All right, so blurb number 1, let's get cracking. Okay. So for our blurb settings, I'm just going to keep the default title and body text because you can put whatever you want in at your own time. But I do want to, just for nice design, I'm just going to add a custom icon here for my image. Let's just use this light bulb here. And this icon is actually from our crowdfunding layout pack. And all of those images, all of those image assets are free for you to download and use without any restrictions. So if you want to use these, feel free to check out our blog and search for the crowdfunding layout pack. And I've also linked to it in the blog post that goes along with this tutorial, so you can find it there. All right, let's upload that icon. There it is. Give it a background color now. We're just going to use this kind of like basically a really light gray, like an off-white. Just to kind of give it a little distinction from the white background there. All right, let's jump over to our design tab. And let's align our, well, we can keep that aligned that way. We're going to do text alignment though. So we're going to center all of that. So text alignment centered. Let's go down, and for our sizing, we're going to do we can keep the auto width, but let's set a max width on our devices here. So on desktop, we're going to do max width of 400 pixels. We don't really want it to get any larger than that. This will work well once we go responsive, get to that smaller desktop screen size into that tablet size. So not much more wider than 400 pixels will work. And then let's do that on tablet as well. So 400 pixels. And then on phone, we're going to do 90%. All right. Let's do the module alignment centered. And let's add some padding because it needs some padding. So on the top, let's do 6%. Bottom, let's just do 6%. And then the left, we'll do 3% on the right as well. So 3% on the left and right. All right, looking good. This blurb size really will be shared by all of the elements or the flowchart items. So basically, I'm just going to be duplicating this blurb and using it throughout the layout. So but before I finish my design, let's do a border. So I'm going to do a 2 pixel. That's not my border. That's rounded corners. Sorry. Border width. Let's do 2 pixels. By default, it's going to have like a dark gray color. So we can just leave that for sake of time. You can always change it to whatever you want. But this will kind of match the lines. Just go back to our final. So our final result here, it'll match the lines that we're going to be using throughout. So I'm going to keep it all that same color. I think it's the 333 color, if you wanted to know that. All right, so creating the next step is creating our connector row with the vertical line and arrow here. So what is that? That's this part here. You can see that little line, and then it has the icon arrow pointing down, and then the rest of the line. And that line is actually going to be a divider, and we're going to float that icon right or vertically centered right on top of that line. So it kind of creates a little space there, which is nice. All right, so let's do that. I'm going to save out my blurb. Actually, I don't like all that content. I'm going to take some of that content out. Just kind of take some of that body text out so it's not so large. All right. And then let's continue on. We're ready for our next row. So let's do that. We're going to do another row and make it 1 column. And let's not add anything to it yet. And we're going to copy our row styles from the one above and paste it in there to our new row. Paste row styles. And that kind of gets, keeps that 1 gutter width and takes the top bottom padding out, which is what we want. And now we're ready to add a divider. So let's do that. So I'm going to add a divider. And as you can see, by default, it's that long horizontal line. But we're going to make it so that it's vertical. I'll show you how to do that. First, let's get that line color to match. So we're going to do the 3s, make it match. And let's do keep the line style solid, but I just thought of this. You could probably play around, use some dashed lines if you wanted for your flow chart, which might be a cool look. Good thought. All right, so let's do bottom for the line position. For sizing, let's do divider weight. Let's do 150 pixels. So, wow, that's big. So, but we're going to narrow that width to 2 pixels. So now it looks like a vertical line over here, which is what we want. Let's do the module alignment centered. And for our spacing, let's do a bottom margin of -1 pixels. All right, so what I'm realizing I did is I added my divider to the wrong row. So let me exit out of there. And you see my row here. Well, no, that's right. Okay. I'm wondering why it's looking weird. Okay, let's check that out. I'm going to open my layers view. So open my settings, go to my layers view. Make sure it's in the right spot, and it is. I think it's my positioning of the line. Not sure. Divider, wait, did I mess something up? Show divider, yes. Line style, line position. Maybe I change this. I don't know. The top, maybe that was it. Not sure it matters. Okay, so I think the line position was wrong in my notes there, so apologize about that. But it should be taking up more space here. Let's check out my row settings. Something's not right here. Let's filter my modified styles. Got it with 1. Yeah, that's right. Okay. All right, we'll continue on. So we'll add another module underneath there. It doesn't like that space. The spacing looks a little weird in the builder, but it should work out. So I'm going to add another module right underneath that divider. So let's do a blurb module right under the divider. This is where we're going to create that arrow thing we're going to use. So we're going to take out the title and the body text because we don't need it. All we need is the icon. So I'm going to click to use the icon and use the bottom arrow there. There you go. And that looks good. Oh, you know what? That's what I did wrong. Okay, so I'm going to pause there. Sorry, guys. I know that all of you are perfect and never skip steps, but I unfortunately did. So, all right, back up. All right, so I just created my blurb, but I didn't style it yet. I created my icon, but I'm going to go back to my divider because I realized what I did wrong. I didn't give it a height, and I need a height. So for my sizing, I gave it a divider weight of 150 pixels and a width of 2 pixels, but I forgot to add the height. And I want that height to match the divider weight. And that's what I did. That's what I skipped. So that's why it's not showing as it should. There we go. Perfect. And under the advanced tab, it's not necessary, but I'm going to hide the overflow of that divider. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, now we can jump back into our blurb module. We added our image icon, so the bottom arrow, because that makes sense. We're going down. And now we're ready to add our icon color. So let's just match, or just give it a light gray. I'm going to do just a light gray here. A lighter gray. I don't need to change anything else with the icon. I am going to use the custom icon font size, and I'm just going to do 50 pixels. And I'm going to change it to 40 pixels on tablet just so it's a little bit smaller. All right. All right, so under my sizing for my arrow blurb there, I am going to give it a max width of 50 pixels, sorry, 50%. That's very important for the future use of this blurb, because we're going to be copying and pasting. So if you're thinking, oh wow, this tutorial is going to take a long time if this is where we are, but actually it's going to speed up because we're going to be able to duplicate these items and use them throughout once we get the initial design down. All right. Looking good. I see some newcomers coming into the chat here. All right. Hayin from where is that? Oh, Armenia. And Timmy, give me a clap. All right. I always like an applause if that was for me. And Narayan, sorry if I mispronounced your name. I'm doing well. Nice to have you from Bangladesh. And Nayat, please save this video for us. It will be up for you on our YouTube channel after the live stream's over, so look for that. All right, get on with it, please, right? That's what you're saying. Okay, let's do it. Max width of 50%. That'll come in handy later on. I'll explain why. Let's do the module alignment to centered. That's where we want it. All right. And let's do a height. We're going to match the height with the just to make sure there's no overflow. We're just going to make it, we don't want it to go above 50 pixels because our actual icon is 50 pixels on desktop, and then it goes to 40. So I'm going to do the height of 40 pixels on desktop and tablet. So I'm just making sure that that height is where it needs to be. And now it looks like a nice square, which is what I want. Even though we can't see the outline, we can if we hover over it. That looks good. And we are going to add a little bit of a snippet of custom CSS just to add a nice touch. And what I'm going to do is under my advanced tab under the custom CSS, go to the blurb image box there. And all I'm going to do is there's some default margin under there, our blurb image for every blurb image. And I'm just going to take that out and add a white background to it. So you can't see the white background. Let's just change it to black so you can see. So that's the background of the actual icon. So I'm just going to make it white so that when we float it over our line, it'll create that separation effect. If you don't want the background color, just take it out. Okay. Now we're ready to position it right over that line. Let's go down to our position option here and change the position to absolute. Now it jumps way over there to the top left, but we want it centered. So let's just put the location to centered, and there it is. The z-index needs to be updated because that divider line's kind of overriding and sitting on top of it. So we'll increase the z-index to 11. Actually 10 works. I'll do 11 just to be safe. And then it has that nice little gap there, which is what we want. And that we're done with that. So we created our little connector row there. And as you can see, as we build our flowchart, we can just copy this row wherever we need to continue the flowchart down from a particular item, stuff like that. So we're kind of building these little building blocks that we can use later on. All right, now let's get a little bit more creative. We're going to add another row. this time, here we go. We're going to just copy this row up here. So I'm going to copy this one, the one with our blurb in it, our centered blurb, and I'm going to paste it underneath the row with our connector row there. So I'm going to paste that entire row there. And you can see it's connecting nicely. But we're going to break this one up, and we're going to do a two-column or two adjacent flowchart items that are going to align with each of our right and left borders of our row. So to give you an idea what that's going to look like, here it is. We're going to kind of move that blurb over to the left and create another one and move it over to the right where it's directly centered horizontally over that right border line and the left border line. And this box here is actually is the row box. Then we're going to float those arrows in position after we're done with that. So let's do that. Let's go to our row settings. Shorten up my layers view here. And let's customize the row to have a max width. This is very important. Max width of 50%. So let's do that. So we don't want that row to go past 50%. And the reason being is because we're going to float these. I say float, we're going to use the transform translate to move them over and the absolute position to move them over to sit on the, so that it's actually going outside of our row. So it's extending beyond it. So it's very important that this row doesn't span larger than 50% of the width, because when and I can just show you the responsive nature of this now, to give you an idea. So as you can see, when we shrink the browser window, this row is always going to be 50% of the browser width, and these items, because these are actually inheriting the width of the row, are also going to be 50%. So when they go exactly over to the right 50%, they're going to be the right size. So they're never going to span past what it needs to be, which is important. Okay. I hope that made sense. All right, so max width 50%. Let's go back to our build here. Max width 50%, and then the border, let's add that border width. All right, so our spacing and then our border. Here we go. The border width, let's just continue with the 2 pixels that we've added to our blurbs and our line here, our divider line. Just keeping it 2 pixels all the way around for consistency. All right, so now we're ready to position this blurb. So I'm going to save my row settings. I'm going to open up my blurb settings, the one that's in this row here. And under my design tab, let's go to sizing. And then you see how my module alignment is centered. I'm going to make that left. And now it's right where it needs to be, so I can use my transform translate to move it over exactly where I want it, with a -50 on the y-axis or x-axis, so that it sits vertically or horizontally centered over that line. So, but before I do that, I want to add some margin. So I'm not adding any spacing to the actual row. I'm going to add the spacing to each of the elements. That way, if you add new ones, it'll be more consistent. And if you add spacing to the row, it'll kind of be hard to add new items and it all line up perfectly. So just going to add 70 pixels to the top and bottom of this element, or this blurb. And now we're ready for our transform magic. So the transform, under our transform options, go to transform translate. What this does is basically move it wherever you want it to move on the page. Instead of using things like negative margin where things can get a bit dicey. So sorry about that. For my x-axis, I want to move it over negative 50%. So let's do that. And it's what it's doing is negative 50% of the element's width. So whatever this width is, it's moving it over exactly 50% of that width, which makes it centered, right? That's what we want. If I were to do 100%, it would go all the way over. But 50%, so it sits nicely over that line, which is what we want. You can see the flowchart coming to life. All right, so instead of adding like a 2-column layout to this row, for responsive reasons, I'm just going to keep it 1 column and use, and if I wanted to, I can, duplicate this row, blurb. Let's do that. And you can see how easy it is to kind of add more flowchart items to that line as you go down by just duplicating. But in this example, or this section, I want to actually move this blurb over to sit on this line. Well, I'm going to do it I'm not going to use transform translate, well, I am, but I'm not going to, I'm going to have to position it absolutely, or give it an absolute position first. So open up this blurb module settings and let's go to the advanced tab under position. Let's do absolute. All right. Now it's hidden because it's sitting right underneath the one we created previously. But I'm going to give it the location of right center, okay? Which doesn't look right because we have some transform translate options already in there that are conflicting with it. So we're going to have to update the transform translate, and I'll show you what I mean. But we have it in the right spot. We just need to make sure the transform translate options are updated. I don't need any margin here for this one because it's the only one in there and it's positioned absolutely. So I'm going to take out the margin for this blurb. And I'm going to go to the, where was I going? Transform, yeah, transform translate. So here we go. Right now it's negative 50, so we don't want it to be negative 50. We actually want to be positive 50, and that's where we want it. And because it's over there to the, it is where we want it horizontally, but we also want to update the y-axis to a negative 50%. And that'll put it right in the center where we want it to be, vertically as well as horizontally. All right, so that's what we did there. That's how we center that right aligned or adjacent flowchart item. All right, I've been ignoring you way too long. Let's jump in the chat and see. Yes. I just saw the last one there. Phil asked, can this be downloaded? Yes, if you go to the blog post, you can enter your email in that email opt-in and get the download. The download button will show up. Just click it and you'll download the JSON file. And then add that to your Divi library and then pull it up on any page to see it. All right. Let's see. Best videos today asks, could Elegant Themes work on Web Core Vitals for best speed scores? Yes, we are working on that. Always looking to improve, and hopefully we can get those updates soon. I know everybody's waiting for them. Els, thank you. Although I live in Texas, I don't really speak Spanish, but I can tell that you're thanking me for the tutorial. So I appreciate that. From Venezuela. And Marcy asks, can we link these blurbs to other pages or posts? Yes, you can. Very easily. Good question. So real quick, if I go to any blurb and I open the settings and under here, highlighting all kind of craziness. Okay. Just go to the link option under the content tab, go to link, and you can actually add a link to the title of the blurb, or you can actually link to the entire module. So just enter your URL in there, and when you hover over that module, it will send you to whatever URL you put in there. And that's true of all of our modules and all of our rows, columns, you name it, sections. Any element in Divi, you're able to add a link URL to it. All right, let's add some arrows to our flowchart here. It's actually makes sense as it is, but let's add some arrows nonetheless, because that's fun. Okay. Let's do the top left arrow. This is where our layers view comes in handy, because it really helps to label these things, especially when you have absolute position items or multiple items in a column, and especially if you're using blurbs for two different things or three different things sometimes. So labeling them will help. This is our arrow that we added to our second row. We're going to use that and duplicate it and add it to each of the four corners of this row to create this effect here. That's the one we're looking for. You see how these arrows are placed. So that's what we're going to do. So let's duplicate it. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate that one. And I'm going to drag it in to this column with my other blurbs, my adjacent blurbs. And there you can see it pop up because it has that absolute position in the center. Just going to label it left arrow, just so we know, because that's where we're going to put it. And let's open up the settings for that blurb. And let's change the absolute position. So I'm going to go to position, and instead of center, I'm going to change it to top left, which is what we want. And I don't really need the Z index. I can take that out. You can leave it in if you want, but we don't need it. And then let's go to the transform translate, because you can see it's not really sitting flush over the line, but we're going to do the same thing we did with these blurbs, how we position them over the border line there. We're going to do the same thing for this arrow blurb icon. So under my transform translate option here, go to transform translate, and I'm going to give it a negative 50%. Sorry. And there it is, right where we want it. The arrow needs to be updated. So let's do that. Change it to the left arrow there and save it out. That was easy. Let's duplicate that one we just created, and let's label that one differently. Let's make it top right. I guess I really didn't label that one top left, but let's do that. So top left, the one we just created. Now we're creating the top right arrow. We duplicated it, and now we're going to open up the settings. Go to the position, and you guessed it, put top right. And there it is. Since we already have our transform translate inherited from the previous one, it's going to sit nicely over our line. Let's go to the content tab, quickly update our actual icon. so it points to the right, and save it. Let's do it a couple more times. Let's duplicate our top right arrow one more time, and this time it's going to be our bottom left arrow. Let's label it accordingly. Open the settings. Go to Advanced tab, Position. Put it at the bottom left. There it is. Go to our Design tab. Go to our Transform Translate option. Instead of -50, we want +50. Now it's positioned where we want it. Update the icon. Actually, we don't need to update the icon. That's the one we want. Okay, so we're good. Let's do that again. Let's duplicate our bottom left arrow to create the bottom right. Update the label. Open up the settings. Let's go to our position and make it bottom right location. And then we can just go in and update the icon to point to the left. All right. So we're getting a nice crash course on the absolute position, how to use it, and the transform translate magic that we can use to align things over these border lines nicely. Let's see what we're going to do next is save it, because we worked too hard to lose it. Okay, we're going to duplicate, or actually I'm going to copy it. I'm going to copy this row, and I'm going to paste it underneath the row we just created. And that's that connector row. And as you can see, if I scroll down, let's get rid of that menu. You can see how it is continuing the process. I can just copy that row, paste it under here. We can continue the flow chart, create some more different kinds of layouts for these items. So now we're going to customize the flow with a right borderline connector. And what is that? So right now you can see how the border has our row has a border all the way around. But for this next section, what we're going to do is create a similar design, right, with our border here, with our row border. This is our row, but we're going to add another kind of mini row here to make this right borderline connector. Basically, we're going to connect this right borderline of the above row, and we could connect it to this next connector row here. So we're just creating those two elements, and I'll show you how to do that. To speed it up, though, what we're going to do is copy the entire section. And by copy, I mean duplicate. So I'm going to duplicate the entire section. So bam. Now I created a whole lot more flowchart items very easily. And what we're going to do is customize this area here to add some more. Let's go ahead and add, let's duplicate this blurb item to create another flowchart item on the left. Of course, in your own, you can add another one if you want. And let's just keep this one as is on the right. But I want to get rid of my bottom row because I just want to connect it on the right side. And there's really no way to say in CSS, at least that I know of, I only want half of the bottom row. You can't do that. So we're going to jump into the, well, first we're going to delete these bottom arrow blurbs down there because we don't need them. And what we're going to do is jump into the row settings. So the row here with those borders, we're going to take out that bottom border. So for border styles, I'm going to click on the bottom border tab, and I'm just going to take it out, give it 0 pixels. So now we don't have a bottom row, which is what we want. All right, so now we're ready to create that row with that right borderline connector. So let's go ahead and create a brand new row here. And we're going to do it from scratch. So give it a 1-column row. And then exit out of here. And let's give it the same kind of similar setup. We're going to go open the row settings we just created under the design tab. Give it a custom gutter width of 1 like we did before. And let's take out the spacing. So no top or bottom spacing. And for this one though, remember the max width should be the same. So we're going to do max width 50%. So basically similar to the setup we just had. And I think that's all. Now we're going to add a border. So we just want the border. Let me move this over. Make sure I'm not covering up my face, like, or covering up, my face is not covering up my row settings here. So I have my border that I need to add to this row here, my right connector row. So I just want it on the right side. So I'm just going to give a right border of 2 pixels. And there it is right there. It's because it has the same, this row has the same width as the above width, that border is going to align nicely with the one above. Okay, now what we're going to do is, I tested out a number of ways to do this, but I found that the best way was to just add a divider in here and give it a width of 50% of the row. And that's going to be that connector line that we want. So I'm going to go in here and add a divider to this row. And instead of a vertical line, we're going to do a horizontal line. So I'm going to go to my option. Let's give it a matching color. And let's do line position, I guess bottom. That's what we want. And then for sizing, let's do divider weight 2 pixels. And let's do width. Where's my width? There it is. 50%. There you go. And let's align it to the right side. And you can see there's a tiny little gap there. And let's just, since we have a 2 pixel border width, line width, let's give a bottom margin of -2 pixels. That brings it down flush with those 2 lines that we're trying to connect. All right. So now we need to add that arrow to there, which we can do. I'm just going to come up here, grab this one. I'm going to copy it. And let's paste it right. If you look in our layers view here, I pasted it right underneath the divider. So if you look at it, there it is. So, and because it's a divider, I need to go in and make sure that arrow blurb under my advanced tab, I need to give it back that Z index. I said I didn't need it, but I guess I did. All right. 10 Z index, so it sits on top. All right, let's save that out. I know we're getting short on time. Let's check out the comments quickly. Marcy That's cool. Thank you. Appreciate it. Chanel's looking for someone to modify a few web pages. Blog page only show one post and looking to change layout on another page. Can anyone help? So feel free to reach out. Help her out if you can. We have a nice Divi community. We like to help each other out. All right, let's finish this thing off. I mean, you pretty much got the chops that you need to kind of do what you need, but as you can see, there's a few things that we want to do here to clean it up. One is, wait, my position. Let's see. Right now, this arrow position, let's open up the arrow. Remember, I just copied and dragged it over there. Right now, it has an absolute position, but I'm going to change that to the default because I want it to actually take up some space because we need some space below. Now it looks kind of broken. That's okay because what we're going to do is change our alignment. So under sizing, change the alignment to the right, which is what we want. Is that right? Yeah. And let's see. My transform translate option is set to what I want it to be, but I think, let's go back to my divider here. My divider is not where it needs to be. It's sitting up above. So my divider was wrong. I think I got it in the wrong. So my line needs to be top, I guess. No, it needs to be bottom. Maybe my width is wrong. I'm not sure why it's not float. Oh, I know why. My divider was never given its absolute position. Duh. Okay, absolute position. I forgot about that. Sorry, I was rushing. My divider needs to be at the bottom right. Sorry for confusing you guys. All right, now it looks good. Okay. Now it has the actual space we want, but I don't like that line underneath this one because it comes to a stop. So to do that, we can open up this blurb here. And you remember we added some margin to the top and bottom of each of these blurbs. So I'm going to go under my spacing, and I'm simply going to take out the bottom margin. And there's that line will disappear. Magic. Okay. Let's see. We got a few more minutes. Real quick. Save that out. And let's continue on creating our flowchart in Divi. I do want to just remind you to check the video description for more info, including the link to the blog post that goes along with this. And of course, a link to Divi if you haven't had Divi yet and haven't tried it. I got a link in there to our product page. You can check out Divi for yourself and build these cool things with it. All right, let's keep going. I'm going to save this one out, and just to give you an example of how to do we did the right connector, but what if you wanted to connect it from the left side? That's really the only thing left to do that I want to show you. So let's do that. To do that, I'm going to duplicate this entire section we just edited. That'll create an entirely new section. And then with all of those elements inherited in there. And I want to, let's say, we'll keep that as is, but for the most part, Let me just show you how you can do this next part. So I want to create a new module. Actually, I'm going to duplicate this module. So let's say we want two. Maybe you don't know how to do that. So we want two modules. I duplicate this one, but it's in the absolute position. So what I need to do is go into my layers view there. And once I grab a hold of it, open the settings. And we can, right now it's, let's see, positioned in the center. So I want to put it at the bottom right. And I'm going to save that out. Now I'm going to open up this one that's right above it, and I'm going to change that absolute position to top right. And now I'm going to update the transform translate for that one. Because again, sometimes when you center or work with the absolute position, you need to update the transform translate. We want this to be 0. And so that looks good. I need to add the margins back in. So add 70, whatever spacing you want there. And then now for this other one, let's go jump back in there. And let's add the margin back to this one. Not sizing, sorry. Spacing. So if I add 70 pixels to the top there, that's good. And I need to update the transform translate for that one. Because right now it's at the -50 up there. We don't need that. We need it to 0. And voila. Now you have that another one adjacent right aligned. And so now I'm going to update this connector row. I'm not going to update the row. Well, I need to update the row border. So I'm going to open up this one. Let's create that left connector that we wanted to create. Under my border, go to the right border and take that one out. We don't need that one. Set it to 0. Now go to left and set it to 2. There it is. Save that out. And using my layers view, I'm going to grab my my divider, excuse me. Open up the divider settings. Go to the position. Remember, I positioned it absolutely to the bottom right. Now we're going to do to the bottom left. All right, so that takes care of that. And now all we need to do is update our arrow blurb and change it from being right aligned to being left aligned. So go to sizing and module alignment left. That's where it needs to be. And now all I need to do is make sure that it's pointing in the right direction, update the icon, and bam. To finish it off, let's copy this row again up here with the single module in it. Scroll all the way down and paste that row at the very bottom. And that will end our flowchart. Save it out. All right, let's look at it on a live page. Okay, here's our final result. Oh, right there I have a gap, and that's because I need to take out the section padding. So real quick, just open up your settings for each section and make sure to take out the padding that's there. And then you can also update the design of your blurbs. You don't even have to use blurbs, but as you can see, I just gave the first one like a background with some white light text. Changed up the icons, of course, as your flow needs. But there you go. Take one last look at the responsiveness of this layout. So if I shrink it, it should respond nicely. So even when I get to all the way to phone, it won't break. So everything will keep it lined up. And of course, this design is limited to kind of two adjacent or two column type layout. Anything more would be kind of too hard to read unless you're using really small text or not a lot of content. One last look at the chat, because I know we're getting over time here. We're over an hour, so thank you guys. Looks like no more. Everybody's probably asleep by now, but thank you for sticking with me. If there are no more questions, remember this will be available on our YouTube channel. All right. That's all I got for you this week, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Please be sure to subscribe to our blog newsletter and our YouTube channel. And like us on Facebook. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video. And don't forget to click to get those notifications. That way we can let you know every time we have something new for you, like another Divi use case live stream, which will be next Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And until then, we look forward to seeing you guys in our next video. Thanks.